The Seattle Seahawks are coming off yet another big performance this week. Where do they stand in their division, and what kind of run could they make this year? Welcome back to the BetCanada channel. I'm Katie Caldwell with my friend Jeff Lloyd. Jeff, when I look at this team, I'll be honest, I don't see a lot of weaknesses. Offense, defense, special teams, coaching. It's looking pretty solid in Seattle this year, isn't it?
It's weird because this is a team that, always kind of maybe seen during the Geno Smith era where it was, they ran well.
Hmm.
Geno played well off the run game, but it's a totally different thing right now. And look, Sam Darnold, and up until yesterday and JJ McCarthy being back, there were a lot of people, making the jokes about Minnesota, like, you sure you shouldn't have tried to make it work with Sam
Myself
Darnold?
included.
Are you sure? And then you get a 21, a 24 for 330 and 4 scores and, against a Dan Quinn-led defense,
Yes.
and it was just kinda bombs away, and, they moved on from DK Metcalf, they moved on from Lockett, basically just told the league, "We think Jackson Smith and Jigba is gonna be our one," and, throws up an 8 for 129, which almost kinda seemed insignificant without a touchdown.
Yeah.
Torrey Horton, they used the 166th overall pick for him, and you get a 2 touchdown performance from a guy
Unbelievable.
drafted, in the 6th round, and it's going extremely, extremely well for Seattle, and Sam is there. Sam's not floating around. It's not the one-year deals anymore. He's entrenched there. They probably definitely need to find a way to, hopefully run the ball with more success here. It's just one of the keys as you get later on in the season, a way to close out these games. You got to be able to do that 4-minute offense. The defense gets after the quarterback.
Mhm.
They have many pass rushers. I don't think they have a star pass rusher, but I would say they probably have 4 to 5 plus pass rushers, guys that all can contribute and guys that you really can't sleep on. You can't really double team anybody. And, probably put, basically, the crucifix. I mean, basically just buried, this Washington Commanders season last night, most
Mhm.
likely, unfortunately for Washington. But Seattle and, we did a video earlier and you kind of hyping up the NFC North, the NFC West. It always seems like the West Coast maybe doesn't get the love or the respect they deserve, but certainly some great football, being collectively played by the NFC West as well. And,
Mhm.
it's always been, obviously the NFC East always got a lot of chatter, but, the North and the West is really where the best football in the NFC is right now.
You're right about the passing game that it isn't just JSN, and I'm a Seahawks fan, and heading into the season, I'll be honest, I was worried because we're going from DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, Geno Smith, like this offense that we're used to seeing, to all of a sudden I'm going, who do they really have outside of JSN? Well, they're making it work in all sorts of different ways, and I just didn't know what to expect from Sam Darnold, and I have just been blown away. What's the biggest difference you see in this team this season from last year where they went 9-8 but then still missed out on the playoffs?
No, well, that's where it is. I mean, because you say you were 9-8, and then like I can understand where you say, "Hey, look, I think we've gone with this Geno Smith thing as long as we can go."
Right.
And DK Metcalf, and it's like, well, he wants more money. We kind of already gave him some money, and I might will ship him out. And the fact that you can move on from Geno Smith, Lockett, DK Metcalf, and your offense is a better overall product right
Right.
away. You'd understand it, from McDonald's standpoint of, look, this isn't necessarily my guys. These were Pete's guys.
Mhm.
I want to get younger at some of the more important positions. But you would also think that maybe there's going to be a little bit of a step back in that scenario. Well, your defensive minded head coach said, look, I'll get it on the defensive side of the ball. You guys, Kubiak, let's hope that these are the pieces that are, and it is. And,
Mhm.
you're dropping large numbers of points. You're dropping a large amount of yards. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, to his credit, has proven, granted, you look at him and he's not the cookie cutter prototype. What does a wide receiver one look like? But it's not stopping him in any way
It's working.
whatsoever. He's kinda, you know, he's got a teammate there now who's a veteran, but to be honest, he's kinda looking like what Cooper Kupp looked like before Puka Nacua showed up in Los Angeles. You know, a little bit undersized, but a really savvy route runner, can go deep, can work the middle, and it's just really gone well, and as much as I say I think their running game needs a little work, I gotta be honest, if I'm Seattle, I don't know how many runs I'm calling because it's just
Right.
going so well throwing the ball right now. So, I think it's more of a we're gonna run it just to show them, that we will run it. But, I'll put all of this on Sam Darnold's right arm right now. And I think for
Mhm.
Seattle, that's kind of where their thought process is. And, again, we talk about MVP candidates. All right, Sam Darnold, another quarterback who deserves to maybe have his name put into that rung as well. It's really just it's come extremely quickly, and usually when you have that much turnover on one side of the ball, you don't think, you're gonna pick right back up, and you certainly don't think you're gonna pick right back up, but actually be even better.
Even better, for sure. Are there any vulnerabilities in the Seahawks team that should worry fans? I probably would have said the run game earlier in the season, but I feel like it's looked a little better. But like you said, it's not something that they need to really rely on with the way that Sam Darnold is playing. Is that something that should worry fans?
I think no, because when I think of Kenneth Walker and what Walker actually is, like
Mhm.
Walker, when I think 4-minute offense, Kenneth Walker is a guy I kind of equate to that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Kenneth Walker has never been that give him the ball and he's a threat from 70 yards or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I think of Kenneth Walker and I think it is slow, it is steady, it is Novocaine-ish. He will fight, claw, get that 3.5 to 4 yards. He's probably the perfect scenario, for the 4-minute offense. And, the stat line is never going to be glowing for a guy like Walker. And I think even yesterday was 11 for 42. Nothing that's going to wow you, but,
Mhm.
2nd and 1, either A, I can gamble or let me just get a fresh set of new downs. All right, 1st and 10, 3rd and 1. He's always really been a really productive short yardage runner. Charbonneau, I think they're in a tough spot because last year and years past, they ran the ball so much more. There was an opportunity, and it's always tough with running backs because you want to give them basically enough that you think you're going to get them basically their motor hot, and
Mhm.
it's hard to now because you have so much confidence within Sam Darnold, so much confidence within the passing game that you're not necessarily going to commit 25, 28 carries to 2 running backs. So it's hard, and it may shift to more where it's probably just going to be Kenneth Walker, and Charbonneau may just pick up reps, whether or not, he can catch some dump off, something like that. You may have to decide, we're probably just going to go with Walker because he probably fits what the needs of that offense are going to be at the running back position. But concern, I don't see so. And the thing is,
Mhm.
obviously, is we all know how difficult it is to play there.
Yes.
It's basically, I mean, you get out there, it's just a different environment. The people out there are absolutely insane. It's one of the loudest venues in all of professional sports. And obviously, the more success Seattle has, the more difficult it becomes to play there. So if you're Seattle, obviously you got to feel really confident with your product right now. And obviously,
Mhm.
knowing some important games are going to be played in your building, which again, it's just it is such a huge, huge advantage for the Seahawks playing at home. And you got to feel good where you're at right now if you are Seattle.
Yeah, Walker and Charbonnet can just be 1A, 1B, and the way that offensive line is playing, it
Yep.
just feels like they're going to be in every game, and surprisingly, they're 4-0 on the road. We talk about how hard it is to go into Seattle and play, well, they're also playing really, really well on the road, which is great for them. It's such a tight race in the NFC West. So the Seahawks and the Rams both sit at 6-2, the 49ers at 6-3. I think the Cardinals look spicy relative to their 2-5 record. Who do you think of these teams has the best shot at a deep playoff run?
Well, you look, and now San Francisco, look, man, you're without both of your starting defensive ends. That is
Mhm.
really difficult to overcome. And I would
They're 3-0 in the
expect
division, though.
Yes, but I would expect, you just lost your other starting defensive end yesterday. San
Mhm.
Francisco might be forced into a situation where maybe they're going to have to overpay for a pass rusher. And we talked, a couple of weeks ago about all the youth on that defense. And now, as the games pick up, certainly with intensity, with importance, you know, how do the young kids continue to respond? You have a great defensive coordinator, a great mind in Robert Saleh, But when you have so many young players in key spots, you also keep in mind, you lost your middle linebacker. I mean, so
Right.
basically they lost 3, well, 2 top playmakers, 1 expected to be growing playmaker within that defense. It's really tough to think, San Fran can continue this pace. Not to mention you also have, Purdy, Mac. How does this work out? And how does it work out where nothing happens to the team? Because
Mm.
obviously everybody within that locker room is excited with the way they are playing. They're excited for Mac Jones. But Brock Purdy holds a lot of weight within that San Francisco 49ers locker room.
And they paid him.
But if you're a guy, an offensive guy within that locker room, like you can say, well, maybe it doesn't matter if it's Brock. Maybe it doesn't matter if it's Mac. Well, guess who it does matter to? Mac or Brock if
Yeah,
it's no longer them.
exactly.
And it's really difficult to find a way to make sure that everything stays on the surface with whatever move potentially comes, where they say, "Look, we
Mhm.
gotta play Brock, he's our guy." Meanwhile, there are a lot of people, "Well, Mac's the dude right now." I mean, look at him, he's playing phenomenal. So, it's gonna be a really difficult situation, and it's gonna require I mean, I don't envy the 49ers for having to make some sort of decision here,
Mhm.
and it's tough. It really is. Is Brock Purdy gonna be the guy with the money that just says, "You know what? I'll just stand here. It's cool. I've got my money. It's for the team. Mac is doing the job as well as I could do it." He's not going to say I'm doing it better, but he's saying
Mm.
he's doing the job as well as I can do it. So why am I going to disrupt the apple cart? You worried about the 49ers defense, certainly there. Um, Seattle, there's a lot of superlatives you can give to the Seattle team.
Yeah.
The Rams, hey, guess what? Puka Nakua is healthy. All of a sudden, that offense, now how do you stop it?
That offense is
Because
humming. Devontae Adams too, it's working on the
Puka
offense in LA.
Nakua allows you to have Devontae Adams basically draw one-on-one coverage, and
Yes.
Devontae Adams is going to eat those matchups more often than he's going to lose them, so it's really tough to line up against those teams. I think if I'm San Fran, I think they're the ones that are in a real difficult spot because the amount of firepower that's being lost on defense right now may be too difficult to overcome, and I'm just not sure how you go about that quarterback position, and it just goes off without a hitch. Brock Purdy holds so much weight in that locker room, but Mac Jones is playing outstanding football right now. Like, if I am Mac Jones, I'm looking at Sam Darnold right now and going, "That's me. This
Mhm.
is what's coming for me in March. I'm gonna go get somebody gonna give me $100 million." And, so if you're Mac Jones, the last thing you wanna do is to have to sit down
Mhm.
because you wanna continue this ride right now. So, I mean, it's a really tough spot for San Francisco to be in. It's great in a lot of ways, but it's really, really difficult because whatever move you make, you gotta make sure that that locker room in 53 is 1 continue to walk as 53 is 1.
Sam Darnold, and then also, as we've talked about, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, all of these quarterbacks that are resurging in a different world. So, what are your final rankings? I think my final answer is going to be Seahawks, Rams, Niners, Cards. But the top two I've flipped a couple times in my mind.
I will give it to Seattle, and the reason I will give it to Seattle is the top again. We've talked about it so much about SoFi, but the problem is I don't think any team looks at SoFi and says, "Ooh," you know what I'm saying? They
That's
look at
fair.
SoFi like, "I wanna go play in SoFi." I mean, it's just a bananas building, just the way it is. Obviously, we all know that somehow, some way, anything NFL Network related, the draft, they're all gonna end up in LA. That's
Yeah.
why this place was built, and you look at Seattle, and it's a miserable place to play if you're an opponent. And San Francisco, again, what you're losing on defense and the decision is gonna have to be made at the quarterback spot. And the Rams, I think with the Rams, I think there's also a lot of guys in that locker room looking at Matthew Stafford and going, "This could really be it." There's really a good chance this is probably it for Matthew Stafford. So everybody digs down a little bit more, gives a little bit more, goes a little bit harder. Yeah, the ankle, put an extra layer of tape on it. Yes, I can make it through this game. And I just think San Francisco, and it's tough because You're saying you're the odd guy out, but, like, the odd guy out of what? I mean, there's
Yeah.
really no losers here, but, I mean, the NFC North, every one of those teams could find a way to make the playoffs.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the NFC West, you got 3 teams right now that are legitimate playoff contenders. Yeah, we know the South is not bringing a second team. Yes, we know the East is not bringing a second team to the playoffs, but between Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. That is 7 teams. 2 of them are going home. 2 of them are not going to play the playoffs, go into the playoffs. So imagine just saying that right now. We know 2 of those 7 teams are not going to make the playoffs. And if you're any one of those teams right now, you got to be looking and going, "This is possible. This is the way we're playing." But facts are facts. We know Philly's going. We know Tampa's going. So that's 2 out of 9 jobs going. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right there. So out of those 7 teams, you can guarantee 2 of them are not making the playoffs. And who's going to be the one? And it could be an injury, could be something that happens at the trade deadline. Who do you get back? And who finds that run? Who goes 7-2 down the stretch? It's going to be key. And I kind of like that maybe it's going to open up those 425 slates to some really, really good ball games.
Yep.
And which is nice because we're only getting about 3 to 4 of those games in that time slot anyway. But there's going to be some really, really quality football games with the NFC between the NFC North and the NFC West that are going to kind of close out this season. And really, really, and just imagine we're saying this about the NFC. This is
Yep.
usually the conversation we have about the AFC year in and year out. And I got to be honest, I think it's finally shifted, where the NFC is like, well, we don't want to hear you talk about the AFC. Let's talk about the NFC because I think for right now, you're getting better overall play and deeper play and certainly more parity within the heavier part of the NFC.